Alright, so I decided that this whole concept really just needs to be drawn because it's way too complicated to put into words. I think I did some ASCII art for it, but it's probably code specific, so it doesn't really give a very good initial overview. So this is kind of the basic idea. That's like the SD card linearized, so that's 8 gigabytes right there, or whatever, 512 megabytes, whatever you decide to use. Then the idea is, let's just start over. So you've got your 8 gigabytes or whatever memory card, and you turn on the device and it just starts loading audio samples to the card. So say, an hour or two later, something really cool happens and you want to record that moment, and it happens to be so cool that you don't want to miss it, so you don't want to think to press record or something like that. So during that time, this is recording something really cool, and then it's done, and then a couple minutes later you're like, oh hey, I left that audio thing on. All I have to do is push a button. So right here, you push the button. You push it once, it goes back 5 minutes. So this is, I'll just label it like that. You push it twice. Well, the number is confusing, but anyways, you push it twice, then you push it 3 times, and you say, well, you know what, it went back, it was probably 20 minutes ago, something like that, when it started, so you push it 4 times, 5 minutes each, mark. So then it takes this section of the memory card, and it says, these chunks, 5 minutes each, are to be saved. So, notice you pushed it here, it was, 20 minutes after the event started, but then you get to save it. So that's now saved. So then it keeps recording, and, whatever happens, and then it gets to the end of the card, and it stops there, and it starts right back at the beginning, and it starts recording. Now we're in loop number 2. This is what the ones were. That was the first loop. Now we're in loop number 2. So it just keeps going. It pretends like nothing happened when it reaches the end. It just cycles through. So it's kind of like a circular buffer in a way. It's kind of hard to equate it to that exactly, but it's close. So anyways, so it gets to the beginning again. That must be several hours later. It starts over, and then something happens, and then, I don't know, something interesting happens, so you say, okay, I'm gonna record that moment, and it was pretty recent, so you only press it once. So now it marks that chunk as loop 2. Then, you kind of get the idea, it keeps recording. Once it gets to this point, it sees that chunk is marked, so it skips over that to over here, and then it keeps recording over here again. And then say, like right about here, you say, oh, you know what, something really cool happened. My friend started talking in his sleep or something like that, and want to save that moment. It was about half an hour ago was when it started, and I forgot about it, but it would be cool to save that. So you'd say, okay, half an hour or whatever. So you say, push the button once, you push the button twice. This is in time, this is you pushing the button, so you push it once, twice, so it marks it as loop 2. You push it 3 times, still loop 2, that's 15 minutes, then it goes back and it says, oh, ran into some marked chunks, so we didn't record there, so it jumps back over here and it says, okay, mark this chunk. The next time you press it, so what is that? That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 20 minutes. I said half an hour, but this is starting to get full, but whatever, okay, 2 more. So you press it 2 more times, then it saves those. Now you could press it several times and it would merge with this one, and then that would be one long memo. Thankfully, it also stores the key presses in the samples in the audio data, so you can actually see when you pressed it and how many times, so that you can get an idea for when playing back. You can get an idea for what time period you were trying to save, because, you know, you just got this thing running and only something interesting happens, you know, once every, you know, a few hours or a few days even sometimes. You might forget what was there. So one of the nice things too is you can have a keyboard, so you could actually start typing stuff, you know, like, I don't know what you could say, you know, you could actually type something like, hey, you know, half an hour ago something really interesting happened, it lasted for 5 minutes, or, you know, whatever you wanted to do. Or protesters raided the streets right outside my apartment and had some cool chants that I wanted to record, or I don't know whatever, something. So that's the idea. Then it keeps going, then, you know, like, it keeps recording, so, you know, a little bit later maybe you see something, you could press it once, that'll be, you know, save it for another 5 minutes, and again, that's loop 2, we're still in the second loop, so that's where you pressed it, it saves that. Then, you know, it goes around again, and then, okay, well, now we're on loop 3. So you see how the card fills up, but it always jumps over the used chunks and then reuses the old space before that. I mean, the unmarked space, you know, like this little chunk here could be recorded on. So it would jump from there, then it would jump from there to, let's see, that's all full, so it would jump all the way over to here. This is loop 3, you know, so say you press it again here in loop 3, then it'll mark that chunk as 3, etc., etc., etc. It's smart enough now, like where, you know, say in loop 4 you decide to press it right here, and it marks that as 4, and then say you press it again. Of course, that goes back in time, but now it loops back around this way, and it says, okay, now I want to save this chunk too, and it's smart enough to recognize that that was, you know, even though now it's in loop 4, it has to go back in time, so that's now loop 3 again. So all this leads to some interesting math, because then when you turn the device on, for instance, you know, you could say, like, at the very first time you turned it on, it was, you know, whatever, January 1st at midnight. We'll just make it easy. 1/1/12 a.m. So you get the idea. There's actually technically a way to calculate the actual times with respect to the start time of each of these events, and it becomes, you know, it's a little more complicated than just, you know, saying, well, the card's 8 hours long, and then you know, it's looped 4 times, so this one's, you know, this one's 3 hour, loop 3, so it would be, you know, 8 times 3 hours. Now it's you know, it has to account for the filled chunks and all that stuff in the math. So it does all that too. And, you know, of course, adding a real-time clock would save some of that math, but it also is necessary to be able to look up this data and replay it and stuff like that too. And so, for instance, when you extract the data, it will remap all of this into order. It's kind of hard to see in this, it's a little blurry, but it would look at this chunk and it would say, okay, this was loop 1, so when it extracts it, it would extract that as one memo. And then here's another one, this is all sequential, right, half an hour. So it would take that bit, and it would take that bit, and it would put it into another memo. And thankfully I noticed that there was some other ones that I forgot, because this was an earlier one in the same loop but earlier, so it would extract that one to here. And then, let's see, I'm losing track of what my numbers are, I can't quite see it on the screen. Okay, here's another 2, loop 2, so that would be extracted. And then here's a loop 3. Oh, hey, look at that. I don't think I did that intentionally, did I? I don't remember. Okay, well, anyways, we got a 3 and a 3. Oh, yeah, I must have, because I pushed the memo button here. So I pushed it 3 times, so it saved back 15 minutes. So this is loop 4. This is loop 3. Loop 3, it recognizes that it's the end of the card, so it recognizes this. Oops, wow, a little delay in the video feed. It recognizes that that's one memo, so it would take it and it would put it here, and that goes to there. So it's kind of a complicated mapping scheme, but if you look back at this in time, then, you know, of course, this is the first time you pressed a memo button, this is the second time, the third time, the fourth time, and the fifth time. So each one of those events happened in that order. And then, like I said, you know, you can calculate the time, you know, of the start and end of each of these with respect to when you powered it up. Excuse me. So you have a pretty good method to I have no idea what the heck I'm saying. Anyways, there you go. That's how it works. It's kind of complicated, but not so much when it's walked through, I guess. Yeah, okay. There you have it. That's audioThing.